What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity, interviewing a multitude of projects across Web3. We've got some familiar, I would say, voices, but not necessarily faces on these streams. We've had the Interlock guys on a bunch of times coming out of the Aleph Zero ecosystem. Arbitrum, obviously, definitely multi-chain moving forward as well. And the big topic today that we're going to be discussing is kind of the general availability of ThreatSlayer. So browser-based extension and community cultivated kind of threat intelligence with some incentivization and reward stuff in there as well. But not financial advice. Let me get into the weeds here. I always like to start these out with a little bit of an intro and an overview. So Andrew, if you can give an intro of maybe just briefly yourself, and same thing with you, Rick, that'd be great. I'll start with Andrew.
Cool. Hey, everyone. Good to see y'all, because typically we're just on audio, so you can see my fat face and my ThreatSlayer hat. So nice to meet y'all. I'm Andrew, co-founder of Interlock. My background has been 15 years in tech marketing experience. Had my own marketing agency, advised companies like Dropbox, but typically companies Series A or earlier. And I joined Rick at Interlock like almost 2.5 years ago. So it's been a long time, and Rick was actually my very first agency client. So nice to meet y'all face to face.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rick,
for sure. Thanks. Yeah. So I'm Rick Deacon, other co-founder of Interlock, and I've been doing cybersecurity for over 17 years at this point. Started my career as sort of like an ethical hacker. Really, before I even had a career doing it, I was doing some hacking, and then I spoke at DEF CON, got accepted to do that, then got a job in the red team ethical hacking penetration testing area, but have been building startups since 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. Always in the cybersecurity space, usually in Web 2, but also went through Y Combinator in the past, have done a lot of startup advising and stuff like that. Also had a successful exit at one point with a completely different company too. So yeah, again, just happy to actually be, I guess, face to face in this case, like you mentioned.
I got to ask, Rick, because I know that you guys did like this pitch was pretty interesting too. I know we'll get into the weeds with everything here in the new announcement, but is this still kind of where you would consider like the comprehensive like overview? Like if you really want to learn about what Interlock's doing in like just a really easy kind of one-stop shop, would you go to this video interview still? You kind of pitched in front of
Well, that's a good question. It's a good question. The answer is yes and no. And if I'm being honest with you, the no part of that answer comes from the fact that that audience, in particular those investors you see in that video, are not Web3 people at all. Like they might not even understand the most fundamentals of part of Web3. So I made my pitch very focused on everything else except Web3. So there wasn't very much in there about how Web3 is used in Interlock, because if I had included that, I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I did in that show. So I would say it's a good overview really quickly, but if you are a Web3 person, Web3 native, want to understand the Web3 aspects of what we do, you'll need to dig a little deeper than that.
Yeah, I think a general overview, it's probably the most appropriate place to start. And then more technical would be our white paper. So you can find all that on our GitHub. And we have, I think, 63 blog articles. So a lot of information along with Twitter threads, etc.
Yeah, well, I would love if you guys maybe just give us an overview. I know that it's always interesting hearing kind of like the road traveled thus far, but what is Interlock bringing to this, not only the kind of the Web3 space, but just in general, as far as browser-based security, and how does Web3 inject on top of that to kind of add in, I guess, value with like, crypto communities?
So, like I mentioned, my background's in cybersecurity. The reason why I wanted to do Interlock is because all of the stuff that's been tried for the past 20, 25 years chips away at the problems in cybersecurity and chips away at the issues that we face. And I wanted to try to jump ahead of it. I wanted to try something different, try something new, move away from the things that have been done and redone and done and done again, which clearly aren't really working that well, and try something different. So the Web3 aspect of this is that we tap into the benefits of Web3 directly to make security better for everyone who uses our products, and then also the rest of the world when we talk about our business to business and our enterprise side of what we do. So, we tap into the community, we tap into the incentivization models, we tap into the data privacy model, A lot of the stuff that blockchain has, a lot of the stuff that Web3 has, is what sets us apart from anything else, and what we believe will make us, different than any other cybersecurity product company, rather cybersecurity company that either exists already or will exist in the future.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know, Andrew, that you guys have been kind of in beta for, I mean, it's been a while. It's been probably what, a year and a half, maybe even longer with some of this stuff. So maybe walk us through that. How many users were actually using, and we'll show it here in a second, but the browser-based extension, and on a weekly basis, what are some of kind of the earlier milestones you guys had before kind of going live with general availability?
Yeah, I think the overall number of downloads is in the 50,000 plus range. Typical monthly active users around 29,000 per month on the beta. And to your point, we have been in beta in a while because, as you know, the market conditions were not very favorable for the duration of 2022 and 2023. So I think we're positioning ourselves for a launch at the right time. Additionally, making sure the product is up to standard and ready for general availability.
So I think when you get into like phishing attempts, browser-based threats, things like that, I know 100% that I've gotten DMs. You see horror stories on X and Twitter literally all the time. I actually just had a DM like maybe 5 or 6 days ago, and I forget which wallet the guy said he was using. I want to say it was like Bifrost. So like, which was like kind of the onboarding aspect into like Flare networks. And he said like, or no, it was Coinbase wallet. It's Coinbase wallet. And he's like, I don't know what I did. I reached out to Coinbase. I don't think that I ever gave my private key to anybody. And I'm like, well, you probably interacted with some sort of a site or maybe an email or whatever it is. Like, Rick, how often I'm sure you hear stuff like this all the time. It's almost, almost like every couple of months I'll get like a DM from somebody, like just randomly reaching out to see if they know what happened to them. Talk about some of the stuff that exists out there, I guess, from a security standpoint, and at what areas kind of Interlock and ThreatSlayer kind of inject in to maybe kind of safeguard people.
Well, unfortunately, most of the attacks that we see and the threats that we see are based in the browser, which is why we chose a browser extension as our vector of, application of our security. But what we see a lot of is still really focused around, they've renamed it, and there are more aspects to it than simply saying it's phishing. But it all kind of boils down to phishing. Phishing is really this concept of basic social engineering, where you're tricking a user into doing something they didn't want to do, clicking a link, going into a link, executing something within the page that's on the link. But it all still boils down to, I got you, Andrew, to click my link that I wanted you to click because it was malicious, and you did what I wanted. Thank you. And that's phishing in the most basic sense. And it doesn't matter if it's a wallet drainer. It doesn't matter if it's asking for your passphrase. It doesn't matter if it's asking for your password. It doesn't matter if it's asking for your two-factor authentication code. If you went to this page, it all started with a phishing link. And that's really where ThreatSlayer and most of our work focuses on, is these threats that happen inside of the browser. And we try to block those phishing pages before you interact with them, before you type in your password or connect your wallet or do anything like that. And that's really what we do, because that's where we see most of these attacks coming from. You don't see a lot of application layer attacks anymore. Those all happen to layer 1s and layer 2s who get their their smart contracts hacked and stuff like that. But you don't see it happening to the individual person where the software gets exploited and then their wallet, is drained. It does occur. It's just not as common because it's easier to phish somebody. Why waste your time trying to write exploits for code when you can just tell someone to click a link and they will? So
yeah, and I think the scary thing is that it just happens based on people's normal daily interactions, not even in blockchain and Web3, but just in general browsing the internet. I mean, most of us, obviously, I'm assuming everybody has an email address at this point in time. I suggest that, like, go through your emails and see just how many weird links are out there. Like, I think one of the normal things that I'll always tell people is like, if you're getting an email from a centralized exchange, just don't ever interact with it. I literally don't ever interact with any email that I see from any exchange. And if I do see something, I'll make sure that I like go in and check on different sources and things like that. But this isn't just for I mean, you have kind of the ILOCK aspect that plays into this as well, which is the token, and I'm sure you guys will get into that. So, not financial advice from anybody or for anybody, but this is also general availability. So you can kind of just have this running in the background. Like I think when you guys were in beta, maybe like a year ago, and the browser extension went live, I had it kind of just naturally running in the background, and we'll show it here in a second, but like tens and tens of thousands of URLs scanned. Like I could check and just see that what you guys were building was kind of working. Andrew, walk us through the announcement you guys had yesterday, general availability of ThreatSlayer, what it means, not only for like Arbitrum and Auth0 ecosystems, but just in general.
Yeah, the general availability is announcing our next stage after the beta. So ThreatSlayer, first is to introduce all of our audiences as part of our coming out party of what we are, who we are, what we're trying to do with blockchain plus the power of the crowd and AI for better security. As it relates specifically to ThreatSlayer, it's a completely revamped user interface. Maybe you want to show it, Solomon?
Yep.
It's a totally new login experience, a lot easier to use, more intuitive. It's better at showing the data. And specifically why it's important for the account creation and the SSO single sign-on features, if you want to use it, is that to be eligible to earn ThreatSlayer rewards, you need to create an account. So that's...
So to put in context, so the user experience, at least until this went live, was basically, you would go into your browser extensions, you would see, the little square box that would pop up, and it's like this many URLs have been scanned, whatever. And I like checked this morning because I'm like, I've got an interview with these guys. Obviously, we're media partners as well. So I mean, but I went in this morning and because I'm like, I'm gonna have as much stuff loaded up for this interview as possible, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, cool. I get to like log in now and do all this other stuff. So like, you got a whole new portal here. This is literally just from, and if I refresh this, I'm sure it'll be different, but this is over the past maybe 45, 50 minutes, 50 URLs scanned, malicious sites detected, unique URLs scanned. What is so this slay count just walk us through this, I guess. Maybe start with the dashboard and we just kind of go line and talk about how it interacts with kind of user experience.
Yeah, so the dashboard is a holistic look at ThreatSlayer, how many sites you visited, and how many malicious sites is detected. And as you visit malicious sites, it'll populate on the bottom. Now, the whole point of this, with the numbers, the colors, and the slay count that you said, we're also trying to gamify security a bit. We're trying to get people interested and active. And a lot of our community members, they like showing what their slay count is. So we just did that as a fun thing for the community to share, because some of them wear it as like a badge of honor to show how many links they've scanned. I view that as a call that they should go outside and get off their computer once in a while, but that's just me.
Rick, I know, so artificial intelligence plays a role in this as well. So, I mean, when you talk about community pooled threat intelligence, and even before we get into like the way that incentivization and stuff like that ties into what you guys are building, how does the AI kind of drive something like ThreatSlayer to become more stronger over time based on that community pooled intelligence?
Yeah, so the purpose of the AI is essentially in-house written heuristics that help us determine whether or not websites that you're visiting are bad. And that's really straightforward. The AI just assists us in determining whether or not the websites you're visiting in real time are bad. And then what happens from there is that the individual users, every time that you install ThreatSlayer or use ThreatSlayer, and again, you can use it passively. It doesn't have to be something you're actively logging into like you did. But if you're just having it installed and just using it, you are effectively increasing the accuracy of what we do by crowdsourcing these bad URLs and helping us determine more and more every single day whether or not the URLs that you're visiting are good or bad, just based on your normal browsing. You don't have to interact with it or do anything. It just kind of does it. Later down the road, we will actually have a method where individuals can help us report and say, hey, I think ThreatSlayer misflagged this website, and I'm going to use some of my ILOCK tokens to help improve the network by telling you that you misflagged this and it should be changed, and we verify that. And then again, put that feedback loop into our AI, put that feedback loop into our detection system, so that we not only give back the benefits to the whole community, the community is also giving back to us and saying, hey, here's all these bad websites I visited, and now the whole network is stronger and better.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost like security bounties, right? In a certain regard.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, especially when we launch the usage of the token to help with the misclassification, like I mentioned, it will be very analogous to that. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep. So this down here, so the overall malicious sites, because I don't have any obviously right now. I just started it, and it's cool that you guys are able to kind of feature URL scanned. So I'm curious, the overall stats, because I know that used to be, or no, are you guys planning on, so like when I'm in these dashboards, I think it's really cool to see like my experience, what's going on, and if I'm detecting malicious sites and stuff like that, you're going to kind of have the overall stats as well, as far as how many URLs are scanned, how many malicious sites detected, just in general for like the entire ecosystem at some point.
We could. I mean, that's a good idea. Certainly, definitely on the website product, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a cool metric. So like, walk me through this too. So overall malicious sites, whenever this stuff's down here, obviously there's like the check. It says check here. So when sites start to pop up that might be malicious, am I going to have the ability to kind of like click on something and interact with, to see why it was malicious, why it was flagged, things like that, Rick?
And not in the immediate term. Later down the road, when our classification system is a little bit more robust, we have more users scanning more things, we'll build out reasons, we'll build out policies that show, this is this and this is that. Like we detected this being insecure because XYZ reason. But at the moment, we're really just kind of focused on making sure our detection is working as well as we want it to. And that means just constantly honing it based off of what we have. So at the moment, what that check shows you is just malicious. It just shows a small text that says malicious.
I know that ILOCK and the token aspects, you guys have kind of some of the token economy stuff that plays in with this. And I'm just curious, obviously, it plays a big role in the ecosystem. Can you maybe walk through what ILOCK represents, why there's a need for a token, what it does to get kind of people, I guess, to care about their own security, things like that? Either one of you guys.
Yeah, so let's start with the direct end user first, the retail end users. So the token serves two functions. First, it's to incentivize them to share the security data. And as you discussed earlier, the more people that we have sharing data, the smarter the system gets. And then secondly, it is for what we call security staking. So users will be able to stake tokens and earn additional rewards for correcting our threat detection when it's wrong, either when we say it's safe and it's unsafe, or vice versa. So those are the two primary functions on debut of ILOCK when it's on mainnet.
That's awesome. And I know that right now, you guys interact with a couple of crypto ecosystems. Left0, maybe just walk us through why you guys kind of chose to build on Left0 in kind of the early stages, and obviously still integration with Left0. And now we see Arbitrum, which is interesting, by the way, because obviously the Left0 Arbitrum stuff is kind of just announced over the past week too. But where do you guys kind of see the ecosystems you interact with over time? Because general availability actually gets prefaced like anybody can use ThreatSlayer, if I'm not mistaken, right? You don't have
anybody
to be
can.
in the ecosystem.
Yeah, and you necessarily don't even need a wallet or to be a Web3 user. So in terms of chain selection, LF0 is for its privacy and security features. And then Arbitrum, we thought it was the best L2 for us to start with. That's EVM compatible, along with their reach. And our attitude towards L1s, we largely view it as infrastructure, is just like a Web 2 app. A Web 2 user, you're typically downloading an app and you're not asking the app creator if they're using Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. We look at it as mostly infrastructure. As long as it's secure, it's fast, etc., we can build on it. We will build on it. And our view here too is more. So we aim to be on all major chains at some point.
Yeah. Is there anything else right now that exists out there from like the browser extension standpoint that's doing something like this in kind of the Web3 industry, or is ThreatSlayer Interlock kind of unique?
We are unique in the Web3 side of things. There are other products in the Web3 space that are, browser extensions that definitely help against things like uh, wallet connection and simulation. So it basically goes through the process of simulating transactions to see what's going to happen if you execute a smart contract. There's also ones that also help do things like detect wallet drainers. But the difference between ours and those is really that none of them are actually Web3 products, in the sense that they protect against Web3 threats, but they're just Web2 security applications with Web3 elements. Whereas our product is embedded into Web3, utilizing Web3, utilizing the community in Web3, the tokenization and the incentivization of Web3, and then also, more importantly, blocking more than just Web3. So it's kind of the converse problem with them too, which is that they're Web2 products blocking Web3 threats, but only Web3 threats. They're not blocking anything in Web2. They're not blocking standard phishing. Our product is not just focused on saying, hey, we're going to stop these bad blockchain websites, Web3 websites. We'll block a Gmail scam or a phishing scam from PayPal or something like eBay. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's where our product kind of stands apart in the Web3 side of things. And there are other things in the Web2 space too that are browser extensions to block bad websites. But again, it goes back to this concept of they don't utilize any sort of community. They don't have this feedback loop. They don't incentivize anything. They're kind of just using the same old methods that are tried and true. And that's, but when I say tried and true, in the sense of they're resting on laurels, because they do the same thing they've always done. And phishing links get through every single day, every single minute, not just every day. You can watch Web2 threat feeds that are free and just see bad URLs literally flowing in by the second. So they still get through.
Yeah, 100%. So looking at kind of the layout here, and now obviously this is where you guys are at in the Chrome web store for Google Chrome. When something like this kind of pops up, so maybe Rick, if you could expand on the interaction with the community-based threat intelligence, and as different, like let me put it this way, I guess, like from my understanding of what you guys have here is that I don't have I uniquely browse the internet, but everything pulled together in ThreatSlayer makes kind of, if somebody else on the other side of the world deals with a malicious site or a malicious attempt or whatever it is, as I'm browsing and that kind of gets put into like ThreatSlayer, if somebody else flagged that site and then I end up trying to go to that site later, that's kind of where this stuff really kicks in, where it's like other people, like the collective intelligence aspect. Maybe just walk us through that maybe one more time so everybody kind of understands what's going on here.
Well, there's two aspects of it. We actually do like to point out that we don't have a patient zero, quote unquote. So if the guy across the world sees the bad link and our AI detects it and blocks it, yours will too. Even if you did it simultaneously at the exact same second without any transfer of data or submission back to the network. That's a point that has to be made, because we wouldn't be able to create the intelligence that we're about to talk about if we didn't have a method that was trustworthy in trying to detect things first, basically. The aspect of the community engagement side of it and the usage of that just helps us improve our AI when it is wrong, because we'll be the first to admit no security is 100%. Interlock and ThreatSlayer is not 100%, and it never will be. However, we can get closer to 100% than anyone else by utilizing our community and utilizing people that are having that feedback loop. So how it works is that when you are browsing and that guy across the world sees that link, and let's say it was wrong, ThreatSlayer flagged it as malicious and it was actually safe. What we want is to prevent you from getting your day interrupted next time you visit that link, and we'll have that data come back to our network and say, Jim over in XYZ reported this as being incorrectly classified as malicious, and it's not. So now everyone else won't see it as malicious because we confirmed that it was in fact non-malicious, which is more removing the annoyance of that problem than anything, because there's always improvements to be made. There's always honing. There's always how the AI can get better, etc. Also, if you go to your Slay count and refresh the page, it'll just stay there. It'll show the updated unique URL list from the other page. So
there we go. That's why I told you guys, like having this up in my extension while you guys were in beta for like a year. Every time, and obviously I'm not looking at it every day because I'm just doing my normal stuff, which is kind of the whole point. I don't need to be necessarily looking at it. It's kind of doing its thing, running in the background, which I thought was cool. But I'll say, like, every time I had you guys on for an interview or cross-chain space or whatever it was over the past year, before I would have you guys on, I would like take a look at my browser extension and just be like kind of amazed at how high up like what's ThreatSlayer was doing in the background to kind of track stuff. Initially, it was like a couple thousand URLs, and then I looked at one point, it was like in the obviously like 60, 70,000, 80,000, whatever it is. I think I saw it somewhere along the lines here, and I don't see it in here, but like the security staking aspects, is that correct? And can you maybe walk us through what that actually is?
It's nothing yet. So don't expect it to be in there just yet because it's not ready. It's not launched. But the security staking aspect of it will be that you can basically take the tokens that you've earned, stake them, and then help us improve the AI like I already discussed. So that community intelligence back doesn't just happen automatically. We let people opt into saying, hey, I think this is wrong, because not every user is capable or willing or wants to, go through and say, well, Interlock was in ThreatSlayer was wrong in this detection of this URL. They're just going to move on from it, close the page, and go away. The people who we consider power users, our bounty hunters, our threat finders, whatever cool name we come up with for them, actually get to use the security staking to say, hey, I'm going to stake these tokens on my assessment of this page. You're going to submit that assessment back to Interlock. Interlock's going to verify it, and then I'm going to get a reward based on the extra work that I did. So it's not required work, but it is in fact extra work.
I know you guys have we've talked about this before. So like, if for those of you guys that are watching, like just going to genfinity.io and then refreshing ThreatSlayer, it's like instant. It's tracking it pretty much instantly, everything that I'm doing. Talk about like user privacy, maybe real quick, Rick. Like, because I know that, well, we're talking about security and we're talking about privacy, and most people just don't care. Like as far as like, is my stuff being tracked or not? But I know you guys are doing this in a way that kind of makes it unique to get people to care. But do you guys track? Like,
all we see is URLs.
Yeah.
We don't see anything else related to you or anything like that. Now, you've set up an account, and we ask that all people who are using ThreatSlayer set up an account because it gives more benefits to you. It allows you to earn those rewards. It allows you to participate in security staking. Basically, without having an account, you have a much more dumbed down version of ThreatSlayer. But in the account process, you enter the information that you enter, and we obviously store that because we have to. That's your account. But as far as your browsing and what we're getting from you, we're not looking at what your wallet address is and sending that along to anything. We're not looking at what the wallet you might have interacted with on a page is. We're not looking at your email address. We're not looking at your IP. We're not sending or sharing any of that data. And even when we go into our paid model for B2B, where we sell to enterprises that crowdsource threat intelligence, we're not giving them that information. We're giving them the bad URLs that you visited, the unique URLs if there's an applicability for them, and the metadata associated. Metadata just being like timestamps. So we don't care that it came from you, and neither does the company that wants to see that security data. All we need to know is what those bad URLs are, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and for those that are kind of watching, and bear with me because I know that this is kind of this dashboard is just live over the past couple of days or so. So when I went through to genfinity.io, I've obviously been there before. So that's just giving me URLs scanned. It's kind of a cumulative number. Unique URLs scanned would be my unique browsing experience. If I go to a different URL that I haven't went to before, it's going to start populating in here as well. You mentioned security data though, and the ways that interacts. I'm curious because like Interlock deals obviously with anybody can use it, general availability, but also I'm always interested, what's the value of security data? Because I know that there's probably like enterprise aspects or business aspects, a B2B kind of aspect to this as well. Can you maybe walk us through that and how you guys kind of overlap with business and enterprise too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the security data behind the scenes powers everything that we use that is security related, whether that be Microsoft Defender or McAfee antivirus or MetaMask or Ledger. all of those companies, every single one I listed, and then all of the other ones I didn't too, pretty much literally everybody, they all utilize threat intelligence to determine whether or not their users are staying safe. Like, for example, if you're browsing with even Google, if you're using Chrome has threat intelligence built in that when you go visit one of those bad sites, you'll see a big red screen that says this, Chrome has determined this to be malicious. And what that is not some sort of real-time scanning or some crazy Google AI bot. It's literally just a list of URLs that they downloaded that day and uploaded into their product to keep users from browsing to those pages. And that's exactly what threat intelligence is. And that's exactly what we create. The reason why ours is unique is because no other place or product has decided to use the community to help bolster the creation of it. We are the only ones who are saying, our everyday retail users are helping make the internet a safer place by creating threat intelligence that's never been accessible before and never been seen before. And that's exactly what we actually integrate with the enterprises as well. So when we go to sell that data, they buy that. We could also actually sell our AI API endpoint directly, where if you want to embed our hard work that we've put into our AI to help determine whether these URLs are malicious in real time, you can embed that into your own products as well. So those are the two main products that we sell as it pertains to data. But we also do have in the works a enterprise version of ThreatSlayer called NetKeeper. And what that will do is have policy control, internal data dumps, things like that, where it's more enterprise focused. It won't be for the individual. It'll be something an enterprise buys and deploys it to their internal employees. So that's something you can maybe look forward down the road too.
I'm curious. I'm just like shotgunning random questions now.
Sure.
But I'm curious, like when you think about the stuff that people in the blockchain space interact with daily, I can think of just like random projects standing up websites that might not appear to be malicious. Like,
Yep.
have you guys ever thought like down the road about like governance aspects within the ILOCK community to be like, it might not necessarily be a malicious website, but it might be something that is maybe a little bit more risky for people or appear to be scammy or X, Y, and Z, like things like that for like people to interact with. I don't know if you went down that route or not.
Absolutely. It's more along the lines of like content moderation, like basically
100%.
taking a look at like what, is potentially malicious based on how the language appears. Not even malicious. Like you said, the word's not malicious. It's more like it's more along the lines of like, is this a rug pull? Is this something
100%. 100%.
Someone's going to likely do something crappy to you? So is there a way that we can detect that? And we've thought about that. To be transparent, we don't have anything like that implemented yet, but we'd love to be able to figure out where we find these pieces of data and try to help with that. And as it pertains to your usage of the word governance too, is that later down the road, we actually intend to set up a sort of almost a DAO that is created around ILOCK, where individual users do help us push forward changes to ILOCK, changes to Interlock, and changes to ThreatSlayer based on what community desires. So the community aspect of what we do is very surface level right now, where we're saying, hey, we use the community to help make a safer internet for everybody. Later down the road, we're going to use the community in a real, true, decentralized Web3 way, where it's going to help shape how Interlock and ThreatSlayer are built in the future, and all of our other products. We're talking a whole bunch about ThreatSlayer because it's what's announced, it's what's out there. But our future is not just ThreatSlayer. We plan to build a whole slew of different products that help both individuals and enterprise, and we will continue to do that in the years and months to come. So.
Yeah, and being in beta for so long, I'm curious just what that experience was like. Obviously, you guys are probably testing a lot of different aspects, and I'm sure people that were testing in beta were kind of flagging stuff. I guess the question I have is, were there any changes or pivots that you guys had to make based on being in beta? Like, what are some of the biggest things that maybe stand out to you about that experience?
Yeah, so the beta experience for us really taught us what we needed to start detecting more of. We saw that we had sites that we were missing. We had sites that we were catching that were wrong, and that's just me being transparent and honest. So now that we've created a new version of our detection and a new version of ThreatSlayer, we've been able to improve on all of that. We also took all of the feedback everyone ever gave about the UX what they should do, what they shouldn't do. Like if you remember the last extension, you clicked it in the top of the page, in the top of your browser rather, and it just put a little drop down. You were like interacting inside the browser. Now, when you're opening ThreatSlayer, as we see here, you're opening a whole page that has a whole dashboard of information and allows you to do granular control inside that, which is easier to use transparently. So that's part of the part of the things that we've changed. Part of the other beta aspect of it was just needing to revamp the way we thought about a lot of things, and the way that we structured our team, and what our team was working on at what point. So there was a lot of back and forth there, as well as, like Andrew said, the market just wasn't a great position. So we had to spend time doing business related stuff, which also slowed down the creation of the new version. But we're very happy with what we've come up with now. But I'll already tell you that because we're so perfectionist with this stuff, we already have the next version, the next edition, the next setup, the next push. All that stuff is already lined up for the next few weeks. It's not even something we're talking about, oh, in 6 months, we're going to release this new thing. We're planning to put releases out probably monthly at this point, and they're all going to have brand new stuff all the time.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Obviously, like getting people engaged, getting community engaged. What are some of the, I know you guys have your ambassador aspects, and I guess I'll give a shout out to Super Left Zero. I know you met him, Andrew, in real life, so Chris, but how do you guys engage different communities moving forward? How do you kind of get people knowledgeable about what you guys have built? Like, what are some of the tactics? I mean, obviously we're doing these spaces and things like that, but just being kind of a cog in the wheel from a media standpoint is one thing, like, but getting into like the weeds of like consistency on almost a daily basis is pretty important too. I guess I'll ask you, Andrew, what are some of the outreach initiatives you guys are facilitating?
Yeah, so if you saw on our Twitter, we just posted, I think during when we just started the space, about the official launch of our ambassador program. So we had over 1,000 applications. We accepted 69 ambassadors, and now have 20 international communities, which we just launched. But part of it's just kind of boots on the ground, getting people to first understand what Interlock is doing and how we're revolutionizing security with Web3. And secondly, general cybersecurity awareness. Because we talked about earlier about incentivizing people to share data. We're also incentivizing them to care about security, because most retail users, most individuals, it's a lot harder to sell preventative help than it is reactive help. So especially with security, like most people, you're not looking for security tools until after a breach has happened, until after you've lost funds, until after you've had your wallet drained. So we want to bring a proactive approach, and it's mobilizing this global community to talk about Interlock and cybersecurity ideals, and to get them to care.
100%. I think you nailed it right there. Like, I'm not getting reached out to, or, most people aren't getting reached out to in advance to be like, how do I protect myself when I'm browsing the internet? How do I protect my, my seed phrases? How do I do X, Y, and Z? It's always the, oh my God, what happened? What did I do wrong? And reaching out to you and like being like, I don't know. You interacted with something. Like, I think the precautionary type aspect, the being proactive instead of reactive.
My favorite adage about that was a Benjamin Franklin or something said, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if I missed anything, guys, but the ambassador program is live. Maybe I'll get into, looking through the ThreatSlayer aspects. You guys have the referral program as well. Maybe dive a little bit deeper into like more of the ambassador program, how people can get involved, and then what the referral aspect looks like as far as being able to earn ILOCK as well.
Yeah. So in terms of getting involved in ambassador program, every quarter we'll be reviewing new applications and potentially admitting people to the program, and also removing people to the program. It's a meritocratic based system where those that post more content, they're more active, and it's also quality content, they will be getting promoted, and those that don't will be getting demoted. So it's meritocratic, work as much as you want and get compensated for that. In terms of the referral program, be on the lookout over the next 2 to 2.5 weeks. I'll be driving a large referral campaign / airdrop campaign, and officially announcing the allocation size for the early reward users. and then this new campaign that we have. But it's going to be a pretty significant amount of our overall token supply, and really getting us geared up for major launch. And it's mostly going to be product usage based and then referral based. So stay tuned for that over the coming weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're kind of getting into like milestones here. So if you can maybe walk us through some of like the major Interlock milestones. I know whether it's ILOCK or whatever it might be coming out soon. Again, prefacing not financial advice. We do have a media relationship with Interlock, which is awesome because we've talked to you guys so many times over the past, year and a half. It's really cool to be able to work together. But any big milestones coming up down the pipeline that you guys are interested in?
Yeah, the milestone was on Thursday. It's the update to ThreatSlayer that we already reviewed. That's number one. Number two will be that referral program, which will be launching in 2 to 3 weeks. And then after that, we'll be shipping the testnet version of ThreatSlayer, so the actual connected to the blockchain version, to our test group. And then upon a good testing period, then mainnet and launch. So where launch is right around the corner, both for product and for ILOCK.
Awesome. And Rick, what are you excited about moving down the pipeline here for Interlock? I know I don't get to talk to you as much, so I mean, maybe a couple of times. I'm sure you're busy behind the scenes all the time, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love all the product aspects of it, and we're building out new versions of our detection. We're building out new ways to find wallet drainers. We're building out new methods for helping users help us, like we've been talking about, related to all of that. And then I'm also very excited to see where we land with all of our token related activities. We've done a lot of work to make sure we line ourselves up for an excellent launch, and now it's time to see what that work creates. We're going to reap what we sowed, and hopefully we sowed a lot. And I think we put a lot of work into all of that. Andrew's put a lot into work into all the marketing, and I'm excited to see how all of that comes out. And my personality type is where when something important is happening, I can't really let it go. I get hyper fixated on it. So I imagine myself just constantly watching the community and everything related to the token when we get those announcements out and we start preparing for the full launch. So it's kind of the part that really keeps me excited about what's going on.
Well, I want to give a heads up if anybody's interested in learning about the L0 ecosystem, Interlock. You can go to genfinity.io. We've done a few articles so far on Interlock. We just did one. I think that was yesterday we released it. I'm losing track of days here, but for general availability, which is cool. We'll be obviously doing more of this as well. ThreatSlayer, if you want to check out on Chrome, it's on the Google Chrome store. Just literally Google search ThreatSlayer. It's the one with 4.9 out of 5 stars and 182 ratings. Really cool, guys, on the user experience of the dashboard. It's really slick. How many times do we get into this space and you have to go through all these crazy processes? I like the fact that I'm not automatically flagged with a connect your wallet screen. I have the option to do that if I want to do that. But really like the dashboard of being able to see what's going on in real time with, number one, ThreatSlayer, and then the URLs that I'm just normally browsing. I think it's really clean. And like I said, the experience was super slick. I literally was like, I was like running late this morning. I'm like, I've got the Interlock interview at 9 a.m. and it was like 8:25 in the morning. And I saw that you guys had this, and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to be able to like connect all this stuff in and do all this stuff. I got it done in like under a minute. Connected through my email, which I think is massively important. Just that seamless login. And yeah, looking forward to all the initiatives that you guys are driving home. I should preface again for everybody listening, you don't have to buy anything to interact with safeguarding your browsing history and things like that through Interlock. I mean, the platform and the product works. So kudos to you guys on that. I think it's a really cool initiative.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, Andrew and Rick, thank you guys so much for joining us. Hang out with us for a couple seconds as I end this stream just to make sure everything uploads, and looking forward to seeing the initiatives coming out in the near future. Appreciate you guys' time.
Thanks, everybody.